Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Iman and today I'll be going over the CASPA application. So if you don't know what that is, CASPA is a platform that you'll be using to apply to PA school. I thought this would be super helpful for anyone who wants an inside look into the application before applying, and also just to get to know me as a student, what I was into, what I was involved in before applying. So let's get into it. Okay. So this is the CASPA application homepage. It's divided into 4 sections: personal information, academic history, supporting information, and program materials. So I'll go through every section with you guys just so you have an idea of what it looks like. So personal information is divided into these different sections. This is basically to get a profile on who you are as a student. The next section is academic history. For my undergrad, I went to the University of San Francisco. I went there between 2016 and graduated May 2020, the start of the Panera Bread. And I majored in psychology and minored in neuroscience and African American studies. So just a reminder, you can major, minor in anything you want as long as you're getting these prerequisite done. It does not matter. I loved my major and minor all throughout college. I feel like I was still able to take these science courses, but also incorporate learning about people, society, and what it would mean to work in Black communities as a provider. And then I went to 2 different community colleges to finish my prerequisites. And again, I would just go ahead and double check that when you are looking to apply to a school, check that they accept community college courses. And then there's the transcript entry. You're going to have to request an official transcript from every school that you've attended. This can take up to 2 weeks. So I definitely recommend once you start applying for PA school, just go ahead and knock this out so you don't have to worry about it later and be on a time crunch to make sure that these get in before the deadline. And the standardized test. So PA schools accept the GRE, the TOEFL, I don't know if that's how you say it, TOEFL, and the MCAT. I ended up just taking the GRE, which was okay for all of the schools that I was applying to. I took it in April and I ended up applying to my first program in June. So I was personally okay with the score that I had gotten. And so that is the one that I submitted. But again, you could take it as many times as you want. That just goes back to you want to give yourself enough time after having taken the first test to retake it if you're not happy with your score. And then supporting information. For evaluations, that's where you'll be requesting your letter of recommendations be sent to whoever you would like. I requested recommendations from a professor. I was a lab manager and a research assistant with him. So I asked him for a letter of recommendation. I asked a doctor that I worked with at a clinic. And then I also asked a supervisor. So those were my 3 letters of recommendation. You really want to have people that know you and would vouch for you. If you are someone that is shy and asking for these things is hard, girl, let me tell you, it is very difficult, but honestly, people want to see you succeed. So as long as you let them know where you're going, they are more than likely to help you. It's just coming out of your shell and asking. For experiences, I would divide my experiences into 2 sections: what I did during college and what I did after. Again, I graduated in 2020, which was a crazy time to graduate. I'm so thankful that I had taken advantage of so many of the programs at my school to get patient care hours, because that really helped set a foundation for me. When I did graduate, it was difficult for me to find positions, but I did try to involve myself in as many things as I could. So I did do shadowing virtually. I found a website, which I will try and find and link down below, where you're able to watch pre-recording virtual shadowing. And then at the end, they have a quiz. Once you pass the quiz, they give you a certificate that shows you completed virtual hours. So I did about 10 with different PAs on that website and ended up uploading that onto my application. And then I was a part of LEAP, which is a leadership program with Stanford. And so we did a community-based initiative. I did Project Period with my cousin, who was also in it. And we ended up using social media to get donations and distribute menstrual and hygiene products to unhoused women in our community. And then the bulk of my patient care hours was from community health center. I work as a health navigator there. And then the rest of these experiences would have been while I was at USF. So I'm not able to open each section, but I did want to show you guys what it looked like to insert a summary of our position. This is where you're able to tell them what it is that you did and what you got from it. So for Health Navigator, I wrote, as a health navigator, I worked closely with patients with multiple chronic conditions to create health goals and support adherence to care plans. This included addressing obstacles in progressing physical health, such as accessing housing, food, substance abuse treatment, legal status, etc., and connecting patients to the appropriate resources. This position allowed me to expand my medical knowledge around diagnosing and creating treatment plans for chronic diseases, while furthering my understanding of barriers to accessing care and its relation to health outcomes for Black communities in the United States. So as you can see, I was able to highlight my role and also say what I got from this position, which I feel like is super important when applying. If you are having a hard time starting, I would say start with your resume. Those bullet points that you have on your resume when you talk about your position is a great place to start for this. And you can literally use those as sentences to form your summary. I think this had an 100-word count limit on it. You're not able to go any further. So as you can see, most of these are short summaries. And achievements, I wrote a paper on racial segregation in the United States, looked at the Bay Area and how it still exists today and how this affects the health outcomes of Black communities. I did win a paper prize for this, so I decided to upload it. I did not have any licenses or certifications at the point of applying. I do now, but I also just wanted to highlight that to say, if you do not have this, but you feel like there are other parts of your application that compensate for that, I wouldn't stress out too much about it. Then you have your personal statements section. This is my COVID essay. So they did have your personal statement and also another portion of the application where you could use that space to talk about COVID, what you were able to do during that time. Lastly, memberships, which I also opted out of. I did not have any memberships at the time of applying. The next section, program materials. So these are the schools that I applied to. How I was able to choose what schools I applied to was also looking at people who were specifically looking at applications through a holistic lens and looking at all parts of your application to come to a decision of whether or not you belong at their school. So from the 15 schools that I applied to, I ended up getting 2 interviews at Morehouse School of Medicine and Charles Drew University. I interviewed at both schools and I also got accepted into both schools. And so I say that because I did it, and so can you. So each one of these show information about the program, which is super important. You should definitely read this before you apply to a school, because I would hate for you to apply and realize you don't even qualify, because they will still take your money. Then there is the question section. Certain schools will have questions. Some of them are supplemental questions, but for example, this school, it was just yes or no questions that I could click on. And then this lets you know if the school has any additional documents that they want you to fill out or provide. Some of the schools that I applied for did have a requirement of a separate letter that your healthcare experience location would have to write and sign off on, and I would have to submit as proof that I did work there. Not all schools had it, but still some programs did. And again, this is why it's so important that you start working on your application as soon as possible, because you don't want to be stressing about these things and making sure that you're able to get this person to write a letter in time last minute. This school, I had to submit 3 different letters, and then I also submitted my resume. So some of the courses, for example, they required statistics, but I had taken psychological statistics. So I was able to upload catalog course description, and that's where I was able to show that the class still met all the requirements and cover the topics that they wanted covered, having taken psychological statistics. This is where I would upload the prerequisite and what grade I got in that course, and then they would cross-verify this with the official transcript. This is where you would add the programs that you're interested in applying to, and it would appear in the program materials section. This section, I'm not gonna lie to you, breaks my heart. This is where they take your shmoney. If you are applying for PA school and this is something that you're paying for on your own, just be aware these applications can cost anywhere from $80 to $200. Not only will you have to pay for this CASPA application, some of the schools require an additional supplemental application. There are some fee waivers that you can apply for. It just depends whether or not you meet the requirements. And then this is where you're able to check the status of your application and whether or not the school had received it. So I hope this gave you a little bit more insight on the CASPA application, what it looks like, and what to prepare for. Again, I just want to hit home. If this is something that you want and you are putting in the work to get there, what is meant for you will be for you, and to not feel discouraged by this process at all. So if you like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.